Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Gallowgateshots YouTube and podcast. We are back with another match preview on the channel. Daryl, it has been a great week for Newcastle United.
Oh, just a bit.
Back down to Premier League action, this one. I think it's going to be a bit of a different game approaching. But before we get into it, I do have to tell everybody that the Gallowgateshots match preview is brought to you by Magpin, the go-to site for high-quality, unofficial enamel pin badges of Newcastle United players, legends, and retro kits. They have just released 2 new pin badges as well. So both of them Geordie boys.
Aye.
So Sean Longstaff and Dan Byrne have a pin badge eventually in preparation for Wembley. But that's a whole different podcast and video, which we will be doing on that. So yeah, Daryl, Saturday night brings another game under the floodlights at St. James's Park. I seem to be getting a lot of these thanks to the Cup run.
I think the next 3 are the same.
Yeah. Welcome to West Ham. So if we look at West Ham since the start, since the restart.
Yes.
I was going to say start of the season, but the restart of the season since the World Cup break. Haven't been firing on all cylinders, mate.
Not quite. In terms of just the Premier League, they've only got 1 win in the Premier League since the restart, just after, around Christmas time there. And that was a win against Everton, really, who isn't beating Everton these days. But again, they've had a couple of results in the FA Cup because they're through with the 5th round as well. But yeah, in terms of the Premier League, it's 1 win in 6, I think it is. And I think, that they have been struggling for form. They have been struggling with a few issues across the pitch. A lack of goals for one as well. They've sort of come back a little bit in the last few games because I think, they scored a couple against Everton and a couple against Derby in the Cup there. And, there's a couple of danger men that we need to be wary of. But, the way our defence has been,
I think we can all look at this West Ham side and think that they're underperforming. I was expecting to be a lot higher in the Premier League than what they are currently. If we're over halfway in the season now, and West Ham sit 16th.
Considering how well they did last season, they were pushing into Europe and qualifying for Europe last season. They've just had a really terrible. I don't know if it's because they haven't been able to cope with the schedule with Europe as well.
Yeah.
But they just it's almost as if they didn't quite muster up the resources to cope with the 2 competitions.
So we're saying sat in 16th, but just a couple of points, well, 1 point I think it is off the relegation zone itself. They're having a torrid season.
Oh yeah,
I mean, absolute shocker.
The West Ham fans are trying not to panic too much, but it's hard not to. I mean, we've been there, we've been in that situation where you kind of
situations where you were told that the season where you got relegated, where don't panic, your team's good enough to get out of it.
Yeah,
was it? Clearly not, because we didn't get out of it in the end. But there's so many similarities between them and even Everton at the minute. I know Everton are sitting 19th, but how far those 2 clubs have dropped in recent years is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. It really is. But yeah, they do sit that they've won 5, drawn 3, and lost 12 this season. Those are bad stats.
Really bad. I mean, in any other sort of season, you'd be thinking they'd be a dead cert for relegation. It just so happens that there's a few other teams down there with them who are performing a lot worse than they are. I think if it wasn't, I hate to dive in on Everton on this, but if it wasn't for the likes of your Evertons and your Nottingham Forest, then they'd be, well, I think
basically that team's doing worse than you.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, and again, like you say, are they too good to go down? Well, nobody's too good to go down. We know that from experience.
Yeah. But if we look back over the last handful of fixtures of West Ham, they've just had a cup win in the 4th round of the FA Cup against Derby, 2-0 away victory. And before that, like you mentioned, Daryl, as well, 2-0 home win against Everton. Everybody wins against Everton these days. Might change, but probably won't. Then a defeat of Wolves, who's fighting that relegation battle with them. So it looks like they don't travel well.
Yeah.
And they're traveling to St. James's Park, mate, and that's not a great place to try and get.
No, absolutely not. Not at the minute.
Result.
Not at the minute. The place. I mean, God, to put them under a 5:30 kickoff as well, with everybody yet again having another full day on it, preparing for it and being out in the afternoon and
not even more.
Oh God. No. I mean, the question you would ask about us is there going to be any sort of hangover? But I don't think there will be. I don't think Eddie would allow it. We've talked about this sort of thing before, where Eddie holds such high standards at the club now that I don't think him, his staff, even the players are into that now, that they won't allow themselves to have any sort of hangover about this, and they'll be ready to go and do a professional job.
The thing which I want to touch on first from Newcastle United is obviously the elephant in the room. We're missing Bruno for this one. So Bruno starts his 3-game ban. It's it's a difficult one because Bruno has been such a key player for us.
Mm-hmm.
But now we have to learn to adapt to these sort of situations.
Yeah.
We can't always rely on Bruno. So how do you think that the midfield will line up?
Well, in terms of how they'll line up, I think you'll probably see Joe Linton certainly drop back in there. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Eddie plays this. Does he go with Joe Linton, Willock and Longstaff and then bring St. Maximin in? Or does he throw Anthony Gordon in and give him a debut because we know he can and do a job on that side as well?
Or was he Murphy at that side at times as well?
And I think in terms of the dynamic of how the absence of Bruno will affect the team, would point everybody in the direction of the second half against Fulham when we lost Bruno to injury.
Yeah.
And you sort of saw a shift in how we were playing at the time. There was certainly a little loss of the bite that Bruno brings to midfield in his role.
It was the bite that got him sent off.
Well, that's it. And I think, we coped against Fulham. I think because we'll now have a few days on the training pitch to work on that, I think we'll be more prepared.
If you are a betting man, how are you going for this one in regards to positioning? I'll let you know my thoughts.
Go on then. I'll let you go first.
So I think that Gordon is going to be eager to get some minutes in a black and white shirt here. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Gordon come straight in. On the other side of that, we know how reserved Eddie can be with new arrivals at the club, where he takes his time. But we'll have to remember that Anthony Gordon has Premier League experience. It's not like Bruno or Botman, the way where they were slowly introduced to the team. I think Anthony Gordon could walk straight into that position now because of the history which he has in the Premier League the last couple of seasons.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't be shocked to see that.
I would agree with you there. And I don't know if he'll do it, but I think we might just see a slight tweak to how the lads line up. So as you know, at the minute we're playing with a 4-3-3, but it's sort of like a 3 with a deep player, which is Bruno
like
most of the
player,
time. Yeah. I wonder if we might just see a slight switch and we might have Joe Linton and Longstaff as the two slightly deeper men, and then in the little hole in front of them, you would then either say a Willock or a Gordon.
Yeah.
And then if Eddie wants to have that flexibility that he has currently with Joe Linton and Willock, he could then have Willock and Gordon sort of swapping around between the centre and the left, which would still give him that flexibility and still give him a bit of a change up if he needs to on the pitch.
Any shouts for the possibility of Alan St. Maximin starting? A lot of fans have been eager for this moment.
Yeah, I think it's a strong one. And I think if he isn't going to go for Anthony Gordon, I think it'll be Alan St. Maximin who'll start. And I think he's probably about time that he got that chance. He came on against Southampton in that second leg on Wednesday, and he would have had more of an impact if we hadn't have suffered the sending off as we did. But I think
strange time in the game as well.
Yeah, that's it. And I know it is a difficult one to think about, but I think if he wants to go down that safe route, then he's going to go down the route of having Alan St. Maximin on the ring to start.
The only thing, and I'm a fan of Maxi, I am. Only issue which I have is you lose a lot of dynamics across that midfield.
Yeah, you do.
Because and I know we're going to lose any because Bruno's not there. Maybe it's a bit too much. Obviously, we're losing Bruno. If you start shifting Willock, Joe Linton, and putting Saint on the left-hand side, you're going to lose a lot of the defensive work from that. And yes, people might jump in and say, we've seen Saint defend. We have a couple of times in a game, but not to the degree what we're seeing from Willock and Joe Linton. So I'd argue we'll deal with that one. So I don't know. I mean, I'm flip of a coin.
It is. It really is. And I'm the same. And, we could try and pin it on it, but we'll probably be wrong no matter what way we go, to be honest. You know what it's like these days. And I think, you're talking about missing Bruno there. We still don't know. There's still a question mark over Isak as well up front. That we'd never really had it confirmed as a concussion injury, which would mean he would need to have 7 days of rest. We just had it said as a head injury, so we don't really know what that means, and I'm supposing
so we'll find that tomorrow morning when this goes out. We're recording Thursday night just before Eddie Howe does his press conference normally on the Friday morning, but I would imagine that Isak is out for the 7 days. If people don't realize, if it is a concussion substitution which you use, that's 7 days rest from that moment. So I'd be very surprised if we say Isak involved whatsoever, which means Callum Wilson gets his start again up top. Do you think let's say if Isak was available, do you think that would change Eddie's approach to this one, or do you think that he sticks by Callum Wilson?
I think he would probably stick by Callum Wilson, and the main reason I would say that is because it's funny enough that Callum Wilson likes to score against West Ham.
He does.
It's one of his favourite teams to score against, and he's known for getting the goals against West Ham. So
want to get one up against.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah. Well, of course, Antonio. Yeah. He'll want to get one up on him for sure. So I think it sets itself up well that it should be Callum Wilson who'll start.
Any other changes? There's no other force changes.
No, there's no other force changes. I don't think we really need to worry about making any other changes about that. The back four and the goalkeeper speak for themselves. I think they'll have a point to prove that now that the goal drought or the clean sheet is the run is over, so to speak. I'll still hold to the fact that he hasn't conceded in X amount of Premier League games now. So, but yeah, I think the back five, it speaks for itself. You don't have to worry about them at all, really.
I think once again, though, like we're highlighted on the very start of this one, fans huge say in it once again. Like you mentioned there that they're going to have a skinful. The fan base will have a few pints before the game, and probably a lot more than a few, to be fair.
Yeah.
And everybody's on cloud nine at the moment.
Party mode.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the players will thrive off that. And St. James's Park has become a fortress this season. It really has done. And like you mentioned, Nick Pope, yes, he did concede the other day. In the drive over, we spoke about this, that it was always going to take that sort of goal.
Yeah, it was. It was always going to take something like a potluck sort of effect, wasn't it? Really, like some sort of attempt like that, where it was just out of nowhere. Really,
I didn't realize how good that goal was until I watched it back when I got home.
Yeah, I mean the way
he buries that in the corner,
the way he hit it. I mean, the only reason it sort of arrows into the corner the way it does is because he actually strikes across it and he gets that swerve when he makes the contact with the ball. And when he first hit it, I thought, oh, sorry, it's going wide. And then all of a sudden, it just went, whoop, it just diverted itself into the bottom corner. It's such a good finish, man. Got to give him all the credit in the world for how good of a finish it was.
If we look at West Ham, though, I think one of the players which we need to watch out for is Jared Bowen.
Yeah,
he knows where the back of the net is. He really does, and he could be quite dangerous.
He's come into a little bit of form recently as well with those two games that you mentioned. He's got himself involved in some of the goals there, and he's fast as well. He's a pacey little man that he is, and it's interesting because I don't know how he'll set up with who partners him up front, because it'll either be Scamacca or Antonio, you would think, and like we said before, that they're hit and miss themselves at the minute, and Bowen seems to be the only one that's capable of getting their goals at the minute.
Yeah, unlike Newcastle. Like we mentioned, but we scored 2 on Wednesday night, and we have been struggling for goals since the restart. We could argue, because Callum Wilson hasn't been firing. Is this going to be the game where he finds the back of the net? I
think when you look at the history of him in West Ham, I think it could well be the game where he starts to find the net again, and I wouldn't put it past him to get a couple.
Yeah,
on Saturday.
Yeah, we need to keep these sort of performances up, because yes, we're all buzzing and absolutely chuffed a bit to reach the final of the League Cup there, but the Premier League is such a huge competition for us as well this year, because we are challenging. We're challenging for, I'm not going to say a title, because we're not. Well, technically, could be classed as a title race. Man U are classing as title race.
Well, yeah.
Newcastle United are as well. But if you look at the fan base, we're just focused on these European spots, and that's not just Champions League. We're looking at all European spots.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such is the way that we're going at the minute. I think it's fair to say that we're probably ahead of the schedule that the hierarchy have in place for it. But yeah, any sort of European qualification this season would be an absolute miracle, really. I love where we are now, and I'd love to think that we will get into the Champions League come the end of the season. But again, at the same time, we're just on this roller coaster, and I'm just thrilled to be a part of it, really.
Yeah. Thrilled to be strapped in.
Strapped
in on the roller coaster.
Strapped in and up and down, but staying up most of the time.
It was great to see Sean Longstaff get a couple as well. Has been missing the target quite a bit recently. So he kept on getting in those positions, kept on missing.
That advice he got from Alan Shearer has definitely worked, hasn't it?
Of course it has. Of course. Imagine just having Shearer's number. We can just text him. Shearer can't score. What do I do?
Alan, what do I do, man?
It worked. It absolutely worked.
Yeah.
So great for him to bag a couple, and he's going to continue this. He's going to continue to get in these positions.
Of course he is, yeah.
And now that obviously he's got that weight off his shoulders now, because that must have been tough for him. Getting those opportunities and missing every single one.
The way he missed some of them as well, and you could see when you read about what he's said about what Shearer was saying to him about how he's put too much focus on trying to place it and pick a spot rather than just hitting it at the goal and seeing what can happen. And he's certainly taken the centre forward's advice on that. And you think about some of them ones, like the ones against Fulham, for example, where he sort of skied it from within 12 yards, and you think,
against Leicester, if I remember right.
Yeah, in there as well. And it's just nice to see him get on that score sheet. And we know that he's got more in his locker because the goals that we've seen him score on Wednesday were both inside the box, and we know he does have the ability to get them from a little bit further out as well. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes.
So if we'll start to wrap it up, if we'll go for our score predictions, I'll let you go first.
I'm going to go 3-0 Newcastle.
3.
Okay,
and who are your goal scorers going to be?
So I sort of hinted earlier that I thought Callum Wilson would get a brace, and I think that is going to happen. And I'm going to go with... I might go with a debut goal for Anthony Gordon when he comes on, if he comes on later in the game.
Yeah, shout. I think everybody will definitely want that and snatch your hand off. That was gifted on a plate. I'm with you. I think it's going to be another Newcastle dominant performance. I don't think we'll score 3. I think it'll be 2-0. But I think we'll dominate from start to finish. Goal scorer, I'm going to go Callum Wilson. I'm backing him. The goals will come eventually. They have to, because he's... I think with Callum Wilson, it hasn't just been an issue of missing the target. It's his first touch has been a bit poor recently as well. He just doesn't seem that... the player that's returned from the World Cup is definitely not the one that went to the World Cup, because he was unbelievable on that run-up to the break. But it'll come. Of course it'll come. Just like it did for Longstaff. He got his opportunities and took them. So I think Wilson will definitely get bag 1. And I don't think this will happen, but I want this to happen. I want Botman to get on the score sheet.
I think it's... it is. It's been coming, and it would be nice for it to happen now.
For the defensive unit, which will have those 2 centre-back pair, and you've got Dan Burn that's 6'7", and I think Botman's 6'3" or something like that. The big lads.
Yeah.
Then very rarely hit the target from corners and set pieces. So I think the time has come for Sven Botman to get his name on that score sheet.
Yeah, I like the sound of it.
I'll be buzzing, absolutely buzzing for him. The rest of the lads have had one in that defensive lineup, so let's get Botman one as well. If not, I'll go with you, mate, Gordon. I think Gordon will make an appearance at some point. He has to.
Yeah. He's ready to go, like you said. He's absolutely ready to go from the off. But
even if it's just a handful of minutes towards the end of the game, he'll be involved at some point. But like we said at the start, I wouldn't be surprised to see him start this fixture. I really wouldn't. But yeah, anything that you would like to add before we wrap it up?
Nah, I think we're all right, aren't we? Just get ready and enjoy the game.
Did you think that this moment would not happen in relation to this roller coaster? We're still on the incline.
I know.
We're still going.
I didn't think it would happen as quick as it has, mind. And I think, a lot of we're in that boat.
We're always waiting for something bad to happen, really.
Yeah. And you were thinking at one point on Wednesday night, you're thinking, is it gonna happen now? And it hasn't. It's just, we're just going. We just keep going up and up. And we've got the crescendo of Wembley at the end of the month, which I hope I think we'll be all right.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Thanks everybody for tuning in for this one and watching, or if you're watching back or listening back to this podcast. It means a lot to us for you joining alongside me and Daryl tonight. And if you just want to like the video, it means a lot to us. If you want to go an extra step further, become a subscriber. We're close to 10,000. I think we're only about 400 away from 10,000.
This close to 10,000.
Really close. If you want to give it a bit extra back, you can become a member. It's just $2.99 a month. You get early access to videos like this one. You get bonus content. You also get access to the Telegram group, which is basically a bit like WhatsApp, but not.
It's been buzzing since Wednesday.
It's been buzzing since the start of the season. And I think we're all going to be arranging some sort of meetup as well.
Yeah.
For everybody that isn't traveling down to London via that Telegram group as well. So thanks, everybody. See you next time. How is it, lads?
Bye.